It would require a great philosopher and historian to explain the causes of the famous 7 Years' War, in which Europe was engaged, and in which we find the setting of our film, Napoleon! Oh, hello everybody, welcome to the completely Napoleonicious CM Kozeman Napoleon film review and podcast about, well, basically this much hyped film by Ridley Scott, which I got to see in the year of our Lord 2023 in the late weeks of the month of November. I'm just noting these down for posterity because this is a historic movie with many historic details and a lot of controversy around it. Even when the trailer was released, people were talking left and right about this film, and I just had to go and see Napoleon by Ridley Scott, featuring Joaquin Phoenix and don't even get me started about it, Vanessa Kirby. But anyways, this is the CM Kozeman channel. If you're just in here with the Napoleon review, please know that this is a very eccentric channel where we speak about relatively little known phenomena, science fiction, weird animals, weird plants, weird events, weird people, weird everything really. And plus there are a lot of weird expedition videos, so welcome everyone to the land of weird. If you're new or if you're an all-time visitor, my wish from you, my command to you is always the same. Please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to this channel, and consider donating to me on patreon.com. And maybe even go to our merch store where you can pick up lots of CM Kozeman related cool merchandise, including t-shirts, tote bags, and everything. Well, okay, there's no getting around it. I am a history enthusiast and I am a big fan of the films of Ridley Scott. I think, well, most of his films are great, to be honest, including The Kingdom of Heaven and who can forget Blade Runner, the original Android escapade film, and of course Ridley Scott's Alien. He did have some misses, especially with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, so you gotta take the bitter with the better. And I think this film, the Napoleon film, is gonna fall into the bitter section of Ridley Scott's career for the reasons I'm about to elaborate. Now, there's been a lot of furore about whether this film is historically accurate or not, but I think we are going to talk all about this. There are some really big lapses of historic accuracy throughout the film, but I think the greater problem it suffers from is the fact that despite its enormous budget and great production values, the film simply falls into an error that many other contemporary blockbusters fall into. That is to say, it showcases historic characters from a very contemporary lens. The characters there act like Gen Xers, millennials, boomers, or even zoomers, which really sticks out like a sore thumb. So let's go. I mean, this projection of present day characters to historic characters is really a problem with this film. And it starts immediately from, I think, Joaquin Phoenix himself. I mean, we do know that Napoleon was a larger-than-life character with lots of weird anecdotes, lots of ego problems, personality issues, and basically overall issues, But he portrays it like you watch the film and you don't see Napoleon, you see Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, maybe if you squint, you see somebody like Casey Neistat, but it's just a contemporary 21st century American male approaching life through the similar neuroses that such a character would have. He's frustrated sexually, stuff like that. But remember, people back then, they obviously had a lot of commonalities with us. They felt the same things, but the way they expressed themselves. For example, there's a scene where Napoleon kind of runs through this coup attempt and succeeds, and then he says a snappy one-liner like, "Oh, gentlemen, shall we vote?" or stuff. Whereas this could have been realized far more effectively, especially with an actor as talented as Joaquin Phoenix. He was, back in the day, he was in a movie with cults in it. I forgot what this was called. But there he had far more pathos. Anyways, then there are obvious problems with, I think, the actress portraying Josephine, Napoleon's wife or girlfriend, or long-time infatuation. And yes, the man was infatuated with this woman, and the film is kind of construed in a kind of basic pared down manner though. It's like he conquered the world because he loved her. And whereas this makes for some great romantic allusions, was this really the case, or did the man have a kind of compulsion to conquer the world? He was a petty and driven person with lots of flaws, and his great love to Josephine was maybe an artifact of this. So it wasn't the root, it was the fruit, if I can make that clear. And man, I mean, look, I don't want this channel to be a rant channel, but really, I mean, there are historic portraits of Josephine, a lot of them, and there are a great many French actresses uniquely and supremely talented to portray this character. Now, it's a kind of ongoing debate about whether people from one culture should be even allowed or at least be respected for portraying people from another culture. And then, like, you go and cast Vanessa Kirby, who is like the high street girl, you know. It's like I mean, like this kind of like confident, this like giving this like wet blank looks and just Whereas if you even look at portraits of the historic Josephine Bonaparte, you see that this is a far more smarter, calculating, and like cold woman. And there are many dozens of French actresses who would be far better equipped to portray this character. And it's just like, I don't know, it's a miss on the film's behalf. Like, some French actress could easily well have portrayed Josephine, and it would have been a better fit. Heck, I think if like a French actor should have portrayed Napoleon as well, because like, I don't know, if you've been around French people, they got a lot of unique and charming and like sometimes crazy details about themselves, and no matter how good an actor he is, I'm sorry, but Joaquin Phoenix, sometimes, I mean, you just see Joaquin Phoenix there. He's just been so typecast. Sometimes, as I told you, see the Joker even, or sometimes you see Commodus, or sometimes you even see somebody like Casey Neistat, like this like contemporary 21st century man struggling with contemporary 21st century stuff. Another problem we see in the beginning, just at the outset, is with the character who is Napoleon's brother, who was like a statesman in the early phases of the French Revolution. And he's like always, the first times we see him, he's always tasking Napoleon with some mission. It's almost like one of those intro scenes to these Call of Duty games. He's like, Napoleon, you gotta take the castle. The castle is well defended, and there are boats. How do you plan to do about it? And like you say press X to say, you don't need to take the city. You can just take the castle and take the glory. I mean, the whole like exposition falls flat, you know. Once again, it's like there are many ways this relationship could have been portrayed better. You know, maybe some childhood flashbacks to, I don't know, them playing games in Corsica and stuff. And like, instead of this like boring mission roster things like, okay, Napoleon, now I'm sending you to Egypt. You gotta take the pyramids and collect 100 gold. If you also uncover mummies, you get bonus XP. It sounds like that. So many relationships in the film could have been tackled. I mean, they're like laid out so flat. I'll give you a great example. One of the great movies set in the Napoleonic times is the amazing film Master and Commander, The Far Edge of the World, starring Russell Crowe. And it's just a great maritime Napoleonic era movie. Perhaps one of the best films, perhaps even the best film about the whole era of Napoleon. So if you're curious about Napoleon's time and want to watch some OG Napoleon movies, this film, Master and Commander, is a great recommendation. And okay, in this film, there's a great pair of characters. One of them is the captain of the ship, played by Russell Crowe. Another one is the shipboard scientist and like the second in command. And they got like a great rapport together. But the way you see this laid out is they don't sit in a room and talk, okay, we gotta go to the southern seas and fight the French Navy there. Will you do this? Yeah, I'll do it. It's not like that at all. You see them playing music together. One starts with the violin, another complements with the small guitar, whatever that is called. And they like look at each other and like you see sympathy in their eyes. And you see that these characters are doing something together. The famous music scene from Master and Commander. Like, they really missed out an opportunity doing something like that with Napoleon's brother, the name of the actor I can't recall at the moment. They also missed many chances in detailing Napoleon's relationship with Josephine. Now I'm gonna turn around 180 degrees and like actually comment some little details about the way Josephine and Napoleon's relationship was portrayed. You see a lot of scenes where they're just a couple and they're just being silly, like she's just getting her hair done and he enters the room and like imitates a dog or something, and then like they have like this like super awkward kinky doggy style sex together, and he just wants a kid, and you see he's like an awkward crabby guy. Sometimes you see them like having a dinner and then suddenly like he goes down below the table and like plays catch with his girlfriend or lover or wife or whoever they are. And you know, if you've ever been in a relationship with any actual human beings, you see that stuff like this irrational little stuff, they are like the bread and butter of relationships. So they are more honestly and candidly portrayed, and I like that to such a degree that I can even forget that it's Vanessa Kirby in that role, you know. So yeah, there's one saving grace in that whole like interpersonal relationship thing. And then anyways, Napoleon gets tasked by his brother to accomplish a lot of tasks. There's the French Revolution in the background and the transition to the First Republic, and then he goes and like takes a castle from the British in some Mediterranean place, Toulon I think. And another like credit where credit is due, cinematography is just great. The views of the landscapes and like the Napoleonic era forts and the war scenes and exposition, they're just great. Like each shot in those scenes, especially the Mediterranean locations, each shot could be like a landscape print, and I would gladly have that on my wall. So yeah, we're taking the better with the bitter now. Then we move on to like more and more wars. You know, Napoleon is tasked with like, you need to go to Egypt, I guess, and fight the Mamluks there. And that whole scene is like really slapdash. I mean, it reminds me of this one scene in the original Indiana Jones film, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indiana Jones is confronted with this like evil Arabic bandit with a sword saying, and he waves his big sword around, and Indiana Jones just draws out a revolver and shoots him dead, and everybody celebrates. It's a kind of like comedic relief scene. Well, in the Napoleon film, the entire Battle of the Pyramids sequence kind of felt like that, to be honest. I mean, you see the Mamluk army, you see actually like hundreds of horsemen, which is like kind of epic. And then Napoleon says, and then like his cannons go boom, and like they hit the pyramids, and for some reason the pyramids make this like stupid bass, almost dubstep sound. Like, I'm not fucking around. Like, he shoots the pyramids and the pyramids go and for some reason the lead Mamluk in the Mamluk army either like dies or like has a heart attack. I don't even get it. The whole scene is so fast, I don't really understand what the fuck went on there, but he dies and it's hinted that the battle is won. Whereas in reality this was a mixed arms cavalry and artillery engagement in front of the pyramids, but like the pyramids were like 5 or 8 kilometers away. They were just hazy background elements, and it was, I mean, there's a lot of irony there because the Mamluks themselves were like a Turkic dynasty of lazy conquerors who conquered Egypt through force of arms, and then another gunpowder empire, the Ottomans, took Egypt from them, but they kind of regained the control, at least like the regional control of the province, and then Napoleon came in and kind of defeated them. It's kind of hinted, I don't know the history of this period in detail, but it's kind of hinted from what I've been able to remember that the Ottomans kind of let Napoleon like prune these Mamluks down a bit, and Napoleon likewise was careful not to get into a bigger war with the Turks. So there's a sense of irony that now like the lazy conquerors descended from one gunpowder empire are now being conquered by this dynamic and new European power that uses weapons of war unlike anything seen before. And don't even get me started about Napoleon's entire Egyptian adventure. It was much more than going to the pyramids and shooting 2 cannon at them and making dubstep sounds. Fuck that. I mean, really, for real. Napoleon actually, look, leave Napoleon aside. This was one of the crowning moments in history where Western civilization as we know it, after the French Revolution, okay, science, scientism, rationalism, positivity were all the vogue. So they developed all these like mental frameworks to measure, document, sketch, chart everything. And then they went on an expedition to Egypt, where they measured, documented, sketched, painted, and charted everything they could find: zoological specimens, lizards, fossils, and of course everything you could name about Egypt was first charted by Europeans, mostly with Napoleon's expedition to Egypt. He brought an entire retinue of scientists, cartographers, Egyptologists. It was like the invention of the Western discipline of historiography, art, science, everything really. And that was all brought to bear upon the Islamic world, which is like one of the traditional foils against which the Western world developed itself. And the difference between the two could not be any greater. I mean, here you had this kind of like decadent and kind of like languorous and superstitious civilization. Well, in hindsight, it turns out a lot of superstition and quote-unquote backwardness of at least the Ottoman civilization was perhaps not as backwards as it seems, and the whole entity from the state to people's customs and religion itself was like one monolithic, permeating, rhizomic culture matrix arrayed towards one purpose only: sustainability. I mean, nothing much happened, and yeah, people died from shitty conditions and stuff, but like nothing happened for 400 years. It was pretty calm. And then when Western civilization came to the stage, you could argue that in 300 years, it's destroying the world now, like destroying the literal planet. So in a longer term, who knows which side is, like, perhaps it's better not to draw or sketch or scientifically document anything and kind of like let life have its slimy way with people and societies. And in the longer run, the people who live in that world could be materially worse off, but spiritually happier and more wholesome. Of course, like you could also ask, like, okay, CM Kozman, are you ready to take the plunge now? And I wouldn't know what answer I would give you. Maybe a little ready. I don't know. Just give me my odalisque and my little papyri to scribble on, and I'd be so happy. I don't know. But certainly, the movie could make this distinction clearer. They could make the whole Egyptian expedition more prominent in terms of scientific stuff and like all the scholars that went along with Napoleon. But no, in the film you get like this one paltry scene where Napoleon goes to a mummy. They say, "Napoleon, here's the mummy," and he stands up on a box. And I think like some 3D animators spent like a minimum wage job and countless sleepless nights just making Joaquin Phoenix seem shorter for this film. He looks at the mummy and says, "Mummy," and he touches the mummy's cheek, and it's like, "Mummy," and like not a single fuck is given. Like it's like such a wasted opportunity. I don't know, and I will get back at this now in the future parts of my series. But if you watch this far, please comment in the comments below. I want to be your Egyptian slave, Kozman Daddy, so we know who's watching and who is not. Okay, moving on. Anyways, plus in Napoleon's Egyptian adventure, there's this whole other story about the Battle of Abukir Bay, in which the British fleet completely annihilated the French fleet. And there's also, I think, even a land battle in something called the Battle of Alexandria. But of course, Napoleon, I guess, wasn't there. But once again, my knowledge of this time in world history is kind of patchy at best. So correct me if I'm wrong, Unlike Ridley Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, let's follow the movie's track. So then on, we move on to some of Napoleon's serious victories. And by now, his relationship with Josephine has matured. So he's like writing kinky love letters, and like, of course, like she's kind of like having affairs behind his back. And actually, one of the prime motives is that he learns that somebody is, well, diddling his wife. So he gets on the first ship and goes back to France. And I guess we are meant to feel that, wow, he's such a passionate man. He's like the Joker to Josephine's Harley Quinn. He's so passionate, he left Egypt, came back just for her, just to teach that brat a little lesson, huh? Maybe that was their relationship dynamic. But once again, it's like injecting too much of modern or even Zoomer relationship dynamics into this otherwise extremely weird and complicated man. And another pet peeve at this scene, like Napoleon opens a newspaper and sees that, well, the journalists have been mocking him, but the copy is all in English. It's like, I mean, there can't be a worse insult to the French. I mean, if I was French, I would be like genuinely offended at this point. Like, okay, the film is a kind of like dubbed in English so it can have more viewers, you know. And okay, I'll let that pass. But even in an ideal world, I think they should have made two versions. One in which the entire scenes are done in French, and another in which the English language has been substituted. But anyways, no such luck. But not even so, even the text in the background, like when Napoleon signs a state document, it's in English. When Napoleon reads a journal or like a newspaper, it's in English. When there's a secret letter or a battlefield communique, they are scribbled in English. God, I really, really dislike this, and like, let me know if you dislike that too. So anyways, another pet peeve. Then the movie kind of like really spirals out. There's a kind of coup. Napoleon becomes emperor. He wins many victories. He orchestrates this coup, or he becomes part of it. Then he has like some drama with Josephine again. Once again, thanks to Vanessa Kirby's tepid acting. Maybe she's a great actor. Actually, not maybe. She's definitely a better actor than this. But they could have cast people with far better chemistry. Heck, I mean, like, I don't know. You just don't feel it. Plus, the whole thing is like so expository. It's like a History Channel docudrama as opposed to a movie. I don't know, well, Ridley Scott comes out of the woodwork 5 years later and drops these amazing director's cuts every now and then. So maybe there's something like that for this film coming up too. I certainly hope so, because, I mean, as things stand now, it's a waste. So then we move on to one of Napoleon's great victories, in which he annihilates opposing Russian and Austrian armies in the Battle of Austerlitz. And then in this war, I actually read up on this. In the movie, we see Napoleon like using cannon to like smash the ice in a lake, and the entire armies of the opposing force just like the ice cracks and he's like, "It's ice!" and they drown. Whereas in reality, this place was like a kind of like a floodplain with lots of small lakelets or like depressed ice gullies in them, you know. And then yeah, maybe in like one or two cases the artillery did strike them, and like, I don't know, maybe there's like a 6 feet of water underneath these things, and yeah, maybe one or two people drowned. But no, actually it was like a completely, mostly terrestrial battle. So yeah, that whole ice thing is like, because in the movie we see like the ice cracking and like people fall into their doom. Like, it's kind of symbolic, I guess, but like, then again, you could be symbolic in a lot of other ways. But like, it's hinted that this is like an entire lake, and who would be that stupid, you know? I mean, like, the ice cracks and you see the people falling into water that's like so deep you can't see the bottom. And yeah, maybe that's symbolism, but yeah, hey, symbolism can be cheap too. And then moving on, a lot of stuff happens. Like, he gets exiled to, well, he goes to Russia. He fights the Russian campaign. And then Moscow burns for some reason. And it's never clear if Napoleon's army did this. But like, the exposition there is kind of also naive and like kind of toned down. So what, Napoleon goes to Moscow, and like the entire city in this scene is like basically some back projected, like one of those new kind of Mandalorian back projection shits, you know, like the characters stand in an actual stage, but behind them there's this huge ass LED monitor that can like simulate any world you want, as long as the people there don't like go and interact with any object. So it's like a glorified background painting, that sort of effect. So they're in Moscow, but like Tsar Alexander somehow, like, also like the entire fucking city, they make it seem like it's like they came to their dad's house and dad's not home. Oh, where's dad? Oh, maybe he went to Walmart to pick up some, I don't know, some steak or some shit. Like, it's like comically small and comically glossed over, you know. So like, he goes to Moscow. He's like, I guess I'll just go to sleep then. And he wakes up. Oh my god, what's this? There's a fire. Moscow is burning. And they're like, literally, I'm not making this up. They're like, oh fuck, it's the winter, we're gonna freeze. So they kind of freeze to death. Once again, this is not a hate channel, so credit where credit is due. Before Napoleon conquers Moscow and all this silly stuff happens, there are actually some pretty great scenes featuring Cossacks and like some wars against the Cossacks on Napoleon's first invasion of Moscow. Then, you know, he gets to trek back in the winter and everybody freezes and he tries to charm his soldiers, whatever. He loses and is exiled to the island of Elba, in the Mediterranean, but he's so charismatic and like, well, this is actually real life history, so it's not that this part is not the movie's fault, but so he Napoleons his way back to Napoleoning and becomes like even stronger, and then faces the combined armies of Britain, Austria, and Germany, and even Russia in the Battle of Austerlitz, where he faces his arch nemesis Wellington. And I don't know, maybe Ridley Scott should have just gone on and made Wellington's life a story, because really the character of Wellington, at first one expects a kind of like textbook cookie cutter British villain, you know, like those characters you see in that old movie with Mel Gibson in it, The Patriot, set in the year 2000. You expect something like that, but no, actually Wellington is like very well rounded, and he's like, the actor portraying him is like quite well too. Remember, Ridley Scott is an Englishman too, so credit where credit is due. I think maybe he should have just gone along and made Wellington a movie, or Trafalgar. That would be an amazing film, like Trafalgar by Ridley Scott. And then there's the final war with Napoleon in Waterloo. But he's like, I mean, the whole scene, like, infantry advance. He's just like this meek, spazzing, kind of like semi-autistic zoomer. And yes, Napoleon was like a obsessed and like insufferable character, but the movie makes the mistake of portraying him as like just quirky and weird and misunderstood, like a 21st century person trapped in the Napoleonic era. Whereas I think, like, from everything I read, he was like a insufferable asshole with like serious personality defects, you know. Somebody more like Tony Soprano in the TV series The Sopranos. Somebody more like Tony Soprano than any character, apparently. Any character Joaquin Phoenix could portray. So it's a pity, like, he was a mean guy, you know. Guys like who make history are like mean, insufferable pricks. But this movie tries to make him charismatic, but because of that it kind of falls flat. And then anyway, there's the Battle of Waterloo. It's a greatly executed set piece. I'm not gonna deny that. But it's like somehow like short of excitement. He loses the war and it's over. And then one of the most ridiculous scenes here is that there's this kind of time-traveling time sniper. Time sniper, oh my god. So Wellington is surveying the opposing side, okay, and he's like looking at his like field glasses, and he sees Napoleon just Napoleoning in his tent, standing all idly like some Egyptian mummy. And then suddenly there's this fucking time sniper, I kid you not. Time sniper is like, I got a beat on him, sire. Should I take him out or something like that? And he's like, on the pain of death, no. Generals have better things to do than shoot at each other. And this sniper is wielding like a scoped sniper rifle, which is just ridiculous. Maybe some experimental weapons like that existed back then, but there's no evidence of anything like that existing at that time. It looks like something from out of the 1820s or even like the First World War. It looks like a steampunk sniper rifle with like kind of like binoculary or like field glassy kind of thing strapped on. It's just ridiculous. And then to press the point home, later on in the Battle of Waterloo, some sniper, maybe the other time sniper guy, does get to shoot at Napoleon, but it just misses and ends up leaving a charismatic hole in his hat instead. We never see why the sniper never got to fire again. But like, if you're willing to overlook weird stuff like that, the combat scenes aren't so bad. But you don't find yourself invested in them. I don't know why. I mean, just like, they're greatly made and editing is perfect, the music is amazing, the extras, the details, the uniforms, they're all great, but somehow they don't come together and they fall flat. And I think it's because you just don't care about it for some reason, and that might be like due to several reasons. One, the storyline is kind of forced. Yes, Josephine was a great influence, but like, it's kind of like hinted like he did everything for her. He did everything for her. Oh god, can you believe it? You had the same stupid problem in that one recent 2019, I think, space movie about Neil Armstrong. And it stars Ryan Gosling in it. He stars as Neil Armstrong, and he goes to the moon, and we're like confronted with the sudden and ahistorical revelation that, yeah, he'd lost his daughter and it was all for his daughter. So he like throws his daughter's toy into the lunar crater or something. Look, I'm not against like historic licenses like this, but I mean, it's kind of silly and it's kind of projecting a 21st century concerned, probably college educated white American parents' perspective into everything. And we don't want things to be like that. We want things to be like things. We want things to be alien, wild, savage, like kind of slightly incomprehensible, you know. But yeah, this movie did not have it. Another pet peeve is the color grading. Oh my god, fuck. I mean, look, I can't even begin. Back in those days, okay, all the soldiers wore like extremely bright colors and weird shaped hats. You know why? Because those fucking rifles and those cannons, they used a smoking propellant. So after like 5 shots of cannon and everything, it was like somebody threw a whole like megaton of frag grenades around there. You couldn't see shit. You could only see silhouettes. So in order to avoid shooting your own guys, armies had uniforms that were extremely bright and like with weird conspicuous hat shapes. You know, it was like a real survivability issue. Anyways, that's the bit with color and shape. But everything in this movie, and it's not just this movie, many other movies these days have it. Heck, even documentaries like Prehistoric Planet have it. Like everything has to be real. It's so gray and muted and like some flat, lifeless, saltless CCD raw data cum dumpster kind of flatness of color. I just don't like it. I mean, Ridley Scott probably knows this. I don't know why he went down this way. I mean, and a great counterpoint to this, not just in color grading, but also in lighting, but also I think it's still the best film ever made about the Napoleonic era period, is Barry Lyndon by none other than Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick filmed almost all scenes in this film with available light, including the interior night scenes. He famously used like a space telescope lens to basically film candlelight as available light. And he has a sweeping zooms and there's nothing that looks artificial. Colors are bright and garish, as they should be, because this was like a bright and garish era of human activity. They don't look fake or plastic either. I mean, it's just wonderful. Wonderful. Barry Lyndon, everybody. Go find and watch this show. Watch this movie. You won't regret it. And it's like, in the movie, much like Napoleon trying to conquer the world, you kind of see Ridley Scott's ego trying to compete maybe the dead master that is Stanley Kubrick, but he just falls short. Just falls short. I don't know. But those were just my impressions. Yeah, I mean, and that, continuing my rant about color grading, why? I mean, okay, if you're shooting on digital because of budget reasons, because, well, everybody else shoots on digital these days, okay, fine. There are ways to make color grading that, like, really make the colors pop. And I'm not talking about fake colors like those you would see in, like, that old movie 300 or something. Like, you could really make colors look like they were shot with, like, a full-on Kodachrome film, and, like, there's just something wonderful about that kind of color temperature and vibrancy that I don't understand why they don't do it, you know. That's all. So anyways, these are my impressions of Napoleon. Once again, the artistic license, I mean, look, all of Ridley Scott's historic films had artistic license. Stuff like Kingdom of Heaven, you know, they kind of like collated events together. There were lots of details and weapons and war details that probably did not exist in real life, like flame arrows, for example. There's one scene in that movie where like Saladin Ayyubi's army surrounds Jerusalem, and at night they all like light their candles or like flame arrows and like flame catapults and shit at the same time, like some system coming online. But if you know anything about fire, that probably would never happen. But yeah, it was a cool scene. But you know what? You let that fly in that movie. In this movie, there's a deeper problem than just historic accuracy. Something about this film makes you not care about somebody as spectacular even as Napoleon. So I don't know what went wrong. My theories include the boringness of digital photography, projection of contemporary characters over historic figures, bad actresses or actors, or like actresses and actors not being able to give their A game, let us say, and maybe, just maybe, the director finally going senile. I don't know, but I hope you enjoyed my rant on Napoleon. As always, now we'll do a sequence, the God of Hollywood sequence. Whenever I do film reviews, and this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing, obviously there's a reason why Ridley Scott is Sir Ridley Scott, and I am just a weird YouTuber with nearly 50,000 subscribers, so subscribe. So I would never pretend to know the art of filmmaking better than Ridley Scott, you know. I mean, I could drag some other movies through mud and I would feel pretty righteous for doing so, but not this time with Ridley Scott. So I don't know what happened with this film, okay? But imagine the God of Hollywood came to me, says, "Are you CM Kozeman?" I said, "Yes, God." And he said, "I got a new assignment for you, CM Kozeman." I said, "Oh God, what is that assignment?" Oh, by the way, I have to take like a major detour and like just let some other grievance off my chest. There is a scene in this film, just as there was in 2023's Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan, where side characters almost like appeal to the vanity of Gen Z egos, and they turn to the main character and say shit like, "Oppenheimer, you're the greatest scientist we got. You got this, bro. You're so valuable, bro. You're the best, bro. Yeah, bro." And in the same way, in the Napoleon film, people turn to Napoleon, but they actually kind of turn to the butt-hurt egos of younger generations watching this film and beyond. They said, "You're the best soldier, man. You're our best general. You know the art of war better than everybody. You're the best, Napoleon. You're the man, you're the man, you're the man." But did we really need that kind of projection? I mean, that scene where like somebody tells Napoleon he's the best, it could have been done in like a far subtler way. Maybe like the guy tries to explain something about how difficult the terrain is, and just Napoleon just gives him this hateful, condescending look, as if to say like, "Are you telling me how to fight, bitch?" Just this like evil, nasty look. And then the guy talking goes away, and like the audience knows that Napoleon is pretty confident about the art of war. But there are few details like this. No, it's like exposition over exposition seems to have killed an emotional audience investment in this film. Well, what can I say? Anyways, back to Hollywood. What would I do if I was charged to make Napoleon film? I would, well, make Napoleon film. I would probably focus only on Napoleon's expedition to Egypt, and also include all these like strange scientists going to these alien land, fighting alien people, and uncovering the traces of an even more alien, far dead civilization, and maybe the effects that would have on Napoleon. And yeah, I would throw in a bit of like kinky Josephine fantasies in there, but I would choose, my lead actor would be French. Whoever plays Josephine would be French. All the side roles would be French people, because like if you've been in France, and if you ever been around in like educated French people, they got this like wild, savage, kinky way they carry themselves about, which the British don't have. The British are bent in a lot of other ways, but not this way, And I would capture that thing. I would also like, if this is the God of Hollywood, I would tell him to like teach me the French language. So I would work in French. Actually, the movie would be entirely filmed in French, or the original languages of whoever's around. If they're in the Mamluk zone, they would be probably speaking Arabic or Turkish. So yeah, it would be in original languages, subtitled, fucking people can read. If they can't bother with subs, I don't bother with them, And it would be just like Napoleon in Egypt, just that. And then he comes, maybe there would be some like rah-rah injection there, where he like returns from Egypt and says things to the effect of, "I have seen another world, now I want to make this world mine, Josephine." Something like this, That would be the rough roadmap of my Napoleon movie. And his later glories I would only hint at, where they're obviously far more spectacular in the minds of the audience. So there, everybody, that's my 5 cents about Napoleon. Thank you for enjoying the absolutely Napoleonicious CM Kozeman Napoleon review. Did you agree with my comments, or did you disagree? Leave a comment, discuss, and also consider donating to me on Patreon. Remember, every penny you donate brings me closer to world domination. And if you watch this far, just mention once again, I don't know what what should I make you say? Napoleon conquered Egypt, Kozeman daddy. Just say this so I know you watched that far, and together we can beat the algorithm. Have a nice day, everybody, and goodbye. Once again, don't let exposition get in the way of a good story. Goodbye and have a great time. Bye.